So welcome to the Node.js Technical Steering Committee meeting for February 23rd, 2022. We'll follow the agenda that was raised in the TSC repo, which was issue number 1173. Before we get started, does anybody have any announcements that they'd like to share?
There was a release yesterday.
Thanks. Any others?
We also usually make a point to announce new collaborators. So Ben Nordhaus, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name, has rejoined us.
Yep, that's good. Were there any others? Can't think of any. Any other announcements? Okay, well then moving on to CPC and board meeting updates. Rich, anything on the CPC side that you want to bring us up to date on?
Sure, we did not have a CPC meeting today. This was one of the weeks where we had a working meeting and the topic was security, and you were there, Michael, so please fill in anything I leave out. But basically, we talked about how to secure Node.js and its ecosystem broadly. And I think the notes are public somewhere in the CPC.
I'm not sure for the working sessions. That's a good question, though.
Yeah. In any event, if someone wants more information or would like to get more involved in that, please contact me. People on the meeting here know how to contact me. Other folks, my email address is in my GitHub profile, and my GitHub profile is TROTT. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just add, this is a focus for the foundation this year with a number of things that have happened. Not just in the JavaScript ecosystem, but other places. There's quite a focus on the supply chain. And so, the discussions being started in terms of, what makes sense for the foundation to help the projects with. Are there things we could do that would help, help overall? And it's really at the brainstorming stage and bootstrapping. I do think there was discussion in the meeting of a collaboration space. So that would be like a new collaboration space spinning up to discuss that and help move things forward. There's discussion with the open source security foundation, which is a relatively new foundation that's funded to specifically focus on these things. So I guess just to say, lots of activity and lots of thoughts that, there should be work in this area, but still really very much at the bootstrap side. So ideas, people who are interested in getting involved, it's a great time to bring those up, suggest them, or get involved. On the board meeting front, the next board meeting is tomorrow. I don't have anything on the list to bring on behalf of the Node project specifically. So if I've missed something and there is, let me know. Just taking a quick note. Okay, so unless there's any questions on either of those, we can move on to the issues that were tagged for the agenda. Okay, the first one is Doc, move bNodeWe back to collaborators, 42064. I think Rich has already covered that. He was an emeritus and asked to, I guess, was suggested he was brought back because he was becoming active, and in terms of running CIs and stuff, it made sense. So he requested, and everybody jumped on to say, yeah, great to have him back. The next one is doc deprecate crypto random get values alias. I don't know who added that to the agenda. If you're here, please jump in.
That's me. I added that. So we discussed it a bit last week. So the discussion here is how we should expose a global crypto object. So on browser, we have the web crypto API, and on Node.js, there's two crypto APIs. There's the Node.js specific one and the web crypto one. And yeah, I did that to see if we could discuss what's the ideal route to handle this. So should I don't know, give more context, or
yeah, I think I might need, like you said, there's two APIs, and we want to have like a single way to get, recommend a single way to get random values versus having those two. Is that the question, or something else?
Yeah, that's part of the question.
Okay.
So currently, if you go on the repo node.js and you type crypto.random bytes, you get access to the node.js crypto module, and that's not compatible with the web API. So I think James added the alias, so it can be compatible. But there's also some weirdness in the web spec that make it not compatible actually. So what I'm suggesting is instead we break the report as it is today, and crypto will now refer to the web crypto API, and therefore we don't need an alias, but maybe we do. I don't know.
So taking the REPL out of it just for now, like without the REPL, we do not have crypto as a global, right? And in browsers and in other environments, the crypto global refers to the web crypto class. REPL is the only place where we bring crypto in as a global, and that also applies to the use of the -p-e command line argument. So if we are going to be consistent with other environments, browsers, Dino, workers, everything else, then if we're going to have a global crypto, which makes sense, it makes sense to expose it as the web crypto API. But then we have to figure out what we're going to do with REPL, whether we're going to go ahead and break it or not. Now, with regards to the get random values alias, the reason that was added on nodes crypto as an alias to the web crypto was just to make it easier, because in REPL environment, crypto is a global, and just typing crypto.get random values works in other environments. Added it as an alias, so it would just work also in node, but it doesn't have those issues with consistency. I think that if we could agree, that okay, if there's going to be a global crypto just in general, that it should be web crypto, then I'm thinking that we should have the option of deprecating the node crypto exposed in REPL, and then behind a flag, making it so REPL exposes web crypto, and then eventually dropping the flag so that that's typical. Hopefully that made sense. I know we said the word crypto a lot, so it's possible that sentence didn't make any sense.
So for my benefit, it's only. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Are we really concerned of breaking the REPL all that much? Because mostly it's for example, autocompletion works differently in one version to the other, without saying it's actually a breaking change. And I would consider it somewhat similar in this case.
Yeah, I would be more concerned with scripts that are using the -p-e.
Yeah, it's been reported by a comment in the PR that there are a lot of scripts out there that use -p crypto.random bytes, for example.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I think we cannot break it without breaking the ecosystem. But report, I agree. I think we can break report. But do we want to break one but not the other? Also,
I'd say no. I think we break them at the same time. But I think we have a process for this, right? We can take it through a deprecation, and just say that exposing node crypto on -p-e and REPL is a runtime deprecation. And then at the same time, we can add a flag that says, web crypto is global, right? And then we can just say, by node 20, all right, which is coming up quick, or it'll be just 1 year. We'll expose web crypto as the global.
The flag is already there, by the way,
Okay.
on this 17.
Pretty good.
I am wondering if we might have a new mode in this case, which would just, especially for the -p thing, just detect what properties are indeed accessed, and if they are coming from nodes crypto or from web crypto. It's not
There's
ideal,
already
but
the
we could
alias.
have.
Yeah, I think all of the web crypto properties have been aliased to the node crypto one. So it would already work to treat the node. Go ahead, sorry.
I mean, then there is not really a big issue, right? If pretty much everything would even continue to work.
Yeah. So the issue I stumbled upon was that we are a bit too loose on some checks. So something we discussed last week is when you have the web crypto API that check if this value is an instance of the crypto class, and we cannot do that on our side because because it's just too difficult to do. So like that, there was some weirdness in the HTML spec that we cannot follow with the not crypto module. Don't know if that made sense. Colin in the chat is suggesting that we add a new global like node, and we can access all modules through node.fs instead of just fs. Yeah, good suggestion.
So an interesting option. But yeah, I mean, I would be surprised when we just put this out. Would anybody object to breaking REPL? Let's put -p and -e aside, but is there anyone that thinks that we can't break REPL?
I'm not opposed to breaking REPL, but I think the consistency thing is would be weird to have all of the node modules like FS available except crypto, which is kind of why I was proposing maybe if we hang them off of a global object.
Yeah. By the global object, you mean in REPL only, correct?
I'm sorry, Nikita, can you say that again?
When you said a global object, you meant in REPL only, correct?
Correct.
REPL and -e and -p.
Yeah, so all the places where we currently make the modules globals, instead of every time we add a new one, we're now introducing more globals. Just kind of have one global that we could hang everything off of.
We can even introduce that as a flag right now and make a December minors change.
Yeah, you can do that.
But if we have to use node dot, can we just require maybe? Well, the convenience is.
Yeah, that was part of the point of just having it as a global, so that folks, especially when they're going from the command line, they wouldn't have to do the require syntax when they're doing the -pe.
But if you have to type node dot, it's just a few characters more to type require.
Yeah, but the problem is if we really move it, we probably break like a lot of user code because it's like in pretty much every package JSON there are some scripts, and the likelihood that they execute some commands like that is relatively high.
So I think that this idea of having this node global makes sense. I mean, I think it just makes sense in general, right? It follows the pattern that other platforms are like Dino, and in other words, about having a platform specific global that they can hang the platform specific stuff off of, particularly in the REPL and in the Dash PE. I think that makes a lot of sense personally. I would prefer not to have to type require every time I do that. It's just extra boilerplate that I'd rather not have to type. Yeah, it's only a few characters off, but still. You also have to figure the quotes, and if you're dealing with command line, making sure you get the quotes right and all that kind of stuff. It's just easier not to have to deal with that. And then, like I said, if we could, we'll just say, I think we have to take it through a deprecation cycle and go from there. And Kita has his hand up.
Perhaps in order to not break the code of packages that already execute something in a REPL, I think we could keep the current behavior and make it consistent. Like the current behavior will be more consistent with code, which basically does const crypto equals require crypto. In that case, that creates a local variable that overshadows the global one. So in a REPL, global.crypto would be the web crypto by default, and just the crypto variable would be the node crypto by default. We can do this also. We can add node does something like node.fs, node.crypto. So a code could use either of that, and we can add a flag to disable the other globals except for node. Right, not other globals, other variables in a REPL except for node. So it would be a three-step again. I can type this in the chat, I think.
I'm not sure if we're at the point where it would be good to get the conversation back into the issue itself. Is that?
Yeah. I think the takeaway is it won't happen in V18.
Yeah.
And we have to find a deprecation cycle.
I think the only thing we can do short term is the runtime deprecation and potentially the introduction of the new global, like the node dot. Then go from there.
Okay, are people happy if I take off the agenda or issue? Have we talked about what we need to talk about, or should we leave it on?
I think we can remove it and we'll add it back if other questions arise.
Okay, sounds good. Just give me 1 second to do that. Just need to log in.
Maybe Antoine can remove it. He probably has it open already.
Sure, that
yeah.
sounds good. Okay, thank you.
Removed.
Perfect. Okay, the next one is rename default branch from master domain. I know there was some discussion in the last couple meetings. Let me just open it up. I had commented to try and clarify, really what next steps were. Just looking to see if there's any sort of discussion since then. So, just as a summary, I have worked through most of them. So we're down to like 6 out of 100 have been moved over from master domain. The remaining ones are more complicated, and Richard Lau has volunteered for a few of those. But really the step that's sort of blocking us from closing this out is those more complicated ones. And I haven't had cycles to loop back and see what we need to do to unblock the other ones, find volunteers and whatever. And so, there's a suggestion that maybe Tierney could get involved. I commented on that front, so if we have somebody who has cycles to go and look at the overall picture and try to help unblock the last couple, that's where some extra help would be helpful. I don't know. Is there any other context from the past week conversations on that one that we should talk about, or other things? Okay, so let's move on then to the next one, which is HTTP2. This is number 1168. I added this to the agenda based on, sort of my read. Benjamin Grunbaum had added this, had made a suggestion that it would be nice to get some more focus on HTTP2. I know from our recent summit where we discussed the strategy for, modern HTTP and so forth, at least my understanding was that, HTTP2, the challenges were sort of, there hasn't been a large uptake, although some of it is important. And so we don't have, correspondingly, we don't necessarily have a lot of people who are like jumping in and working on it and moving it forward. And I think his comment was like, there's lots of issues there. What is it that we can do there to, get more focus, move it forward? And I thought it was at least worth being on the agenda so that, we have the awareness and maybe brainstorm if there is anything or not.
Yeah, I mean, with this one, it was always, we were going to introduce it. We had to have it available in order to see if folks were going to be interested in using it and pushing it forward. One of the key limiting factors on this is, as Colin points out, gRPC is built on HTTP2. Great, but that's one of the only things that's really significant things that's really built on HTTP2. Nginx, for instance, all the reverse proxies still refuse to pass HTTP2 on, right? They'll accept HTTP2 on the front end, but if Nginx is talking to Node, it's always going to use HTTP1. It's not going to use HTTP2. They're not going to proxy it through. They have decided they are doing that with HTTP3, but they're not going to do it with HTTP2 other than gRPC traffic. So, it really limited the, adoption of it. I don't really see, I haven't seen a lot of interest in the ecosystem for HTTP2. There's not a lot of people that have been clamoring for it. Not like they have been asking for HTTP3, which they have been. So, I'm just not seeing a lot of activity there, which is really taking it off of my radar. It's like, okay, if nobody's going to be asking for it, then I'm not going to put the effort and the energy into it. So I really don't know what we need to do here.
Do you have a sense of if he'd mentioned and there was a link to the number of issues, like who's reporting those issues, or?
For HTTP2?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I haven't looked at it. It's
Okay.
been so low on my priority list, because I haven't seen anybody asking for it that I don't have.
Yeah, I'm just opening them up because that's like another question of if they're things we're funding ourselves or externally. Yeah, no, I can see. A number of the names are people I don't necessarily recognize off the top of my mind, but I guess it's in a sense we're open to contributions, but it's not necessarily something that we think we need to prioritize. Is that?
That's really where I'd fall on it. It'd be great if we had somebody to maintain it since it's there, but I know I wouldn't be able to convince anybody to actually go off and maintain it.
Right. So I think our answer may be yeah, we'd love to have somebody maintaining and fixing those issues. And so, yeah, if maintainer showed up, we'd be like, thanks, and be supportive. But on the other hand, we've looked at it and we don't think that fixing all those is a critical high priority thing for the project because of these reasons. And, we don't think we're going to be able to, well, there's nobody who's sort of saying, yeah, I can it's important enough that we can prioritize this. So it's likely to kind of stay the way it is unless somebody external shows up to help.
Yeah.
Is there anything we should do beyond sort of making that comment on the issue?
Short term, I don't know. You know, longer term, I still got on my radar to be revisiting the whole Socket API stuff. And like, you know, when we were talking about on the kind of the next 10 summit, when we were talking about all the
Yep.
HP, you know, HP2 will be worked into those plans on figuring out kind of this more unified HP client API view. But beyond that, I don't know. I wouldn't go see anything short term.
Okay, so I mean, I think it's just good to get a response back that will say, yeah, we talked about it. The issue is, you know, there's not a lot of uptake. We don't think it's critical to the future of node success, but we're happy to take contributions if there's people it is more important to, or, you know, or input that might help adjust that view. But from what we can see today in terms of usage and so forth, it's not something that we know how to prioritize or are planning to make an effort to do that.
Yeah.
Does that sound good to everybody? I'll take the action to go back and make that comment on the issue and then take it off the agenda until it's added back on. The next issue is settle on a voting solution 1165. I think Antoine, you may have added this one.
So I opened the issue. Rich added it to the agenda. I don't know, Rich, do you have something specific or?
I'm sorry, I was busy getting my name to display. Let me take a look. But you can start.
Yeah, well, I guess the issue is there, so we can discuss what if we want to have a blessed solution for when we vote on things, like we did for the pro-modules. So yeah, maybe we should have some. I think it would be helpful to have a blessed solution, because we always end up discussing what we should use. So
yeah, I don't think I've seen anybody. Everybody who's chimed in seems to say it would be good to have a blessed solution. I guess the question would be like, is making our own tool versus some existing tool make sense? But I think the tool you did put together has more, like the integration into GitHub is maybe the significant difference from using some other tool. Is that right?
Yeah, I guess so. And I guess it can be improved, but since it's open source, we can also do the improvement ourselves, which is good.
So
go ahead.
So I added this because it just seemed like something that TSC should decide, and I was, you know, it had been 5 days and there hadn't been really any traction. I think we should just go with Antoine's proposal, and if it ends up not working in the future, or, you know, next vote or whenever, or if we find another tool that we like better, then we have the conversation at that time. But I think, like, right now, nobody seems to be particularly engaged in this particular topic other than Antoine, who has crafted a solution, and I think we should just run with it. We just used it, it worked. Maybe there's a better thing out there, or maybe there are ways to improve it. I'm sure Antoine's open to feedback, and let's just, and so judging from the thumbs ups in the issue, there are 3 TSC members: Darshan, Matteo, and no, that's it. There are 2 TSC members who are not here who have approved it or have thumbs upped it, and then there's 10 of us here. If nobody here objects, I think we have our decision, is my opinion.
Agreed.
All right.
So I think we'll just note in the minutes nobody objected, so let's do it. Okay. Anything else before we move on to the next issue? Okay, we'll move on to the next one, which is Vote Future Primordials 1104. This is this the final thing to capture the vote?
Yeah, well, I guess the PR is ready for review. I'd like to have a rich review before I merge it, just in case, because I think you Rich came up with the automation. So
yeah, I did look at it. It looked right to me. I made a mental note. Oh, I'll test this out with the automation, and I didn't bother. But I think you can just merge it, and if the automation doesn't work, I'll fix it after the fact. If you'd prefer to wait another, I don't know, 24 hours or something, I'll get around to testing it.
yeah, that sounds good, and you can merge it if the automation works.
Okay, sounds good. I might try to do that right now, actually, if I'm not needed to pay too close attention for the next few issues. Let me look what they are.
And this particular issue says Vote Future Primordials. I guess we've only had one vote, so maybe this issue still needs to be open, or
I think we should open a separate issue for the night for each vote.
right. So
that
should
one
we?
issue is already overwhelming. You can, when you open the second one, you can put a refs at the top to that issue for people who need the background and context. But I don't think it makes sense to pile on to this one issue.
Right. So I was thinking we could at very least take this one off the agenda, but you're also suggesting we should close this, and somebody should volunteer to create the follow-on issue.
The follow-on issue should probably be handled by one of Girish, Antoine, or Ruben, because I believe that, at least in my mind, those are the three people who have spent the most time going back and forth about the primordials. And Matteo too, but.
Okay. Just.
I mean, the other thing is we don't have to open the next one immediately. Like we could start implementing this error path business, and then, as things come up, we could open the next one.
Right. I'm just so okay. So along those lines, I think I've just said, I'm going to add this issue and close it. Discussed in the TSC meeting this week, we agreed the issue should be closed and a new issue open. New issues open for any follow-on votes. Suggested candidates for opening the new issue were Antoine, Jarish, and Ruben, right? And leave it at that, right? And whether those are opened immediately or not is not necessarily related.
Sounds good to me. If it sounds good to Antoine and Ruben.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, done. Okay. Okay, so the next one on the agenda is looking for feedback, pointer compression node.js. This is number 790. Just opening that one up. I know we've definitely discussed in past meetings, and I think there was more discussion in the last few that I missed. So I can see there's some discussion in the, Tobias and Michael Zasso have had some discussion about the different limits and all that. The last comment, there's also some discussion before about like how we should, should we close this until we find a champion to drive it forward? And I guess I'd probably advocate that we close it unless there's a champion who wants to, open up an issue where we're going to progress and figure something out.
Yeah, I also advocate that we close it because it's not a small effort. and it's not something that we are required to have. It's not to comply with any specs or anything, and we don't really know if there are any benefits to Node.js or not to have it enabled. So unless someone is willing and has the time to put work on figuring out if it's worth it to have it on Node.js, as well as implementing the required changes that are needed to have it in a production build, I don't think we should keep it open.
Yeah, and for some context, it was opened over 2 years ago. It's definitely, you know, if there was an easy way to do it, there are definitely benefits, but we would have to have multiple, either ship multiple binaries or make the binary, like make our packages twice as big, or so there's definitely no easy answer.
Yeah, and just a comment, it was open 2 years ago, but also Node.js 12 does not support it. So folks that are still on 12 are not able to test it, even if they build the image manually.
So would it be fair to say, like, a comment I could add on there is, we discussed in the TSC meeting today and we agreed that we should close until when we find a champion to move it forward. Does that make sense to everybody who's here? Okay, I'll take, I guess nobody objects to that, to doing that. Okay, I will close it then, and we can open up new issues if and when we can start to make progress on that. Okay, moving on to the next issues, which are tagged in the admin repo. Let me just take a look at where we are for time. Okay, I think we still have enough time to cover these two. So, bot user for Node.js core pack. This is issue number 660 in the admin repo. This actually ended up having, there's a broader discussion around core pack. The original request was for some tokens and so forth to make it, to add to the automation side of things. I don't know which aspects we want to get into the discussion today on. I think given the time left and just, maybe I'd say we leave it on the agenda and maybe hopefully have a bit more time to get into discussion next week. Does that make sense? And so. In the meantime, go ahead.
I think so, and I think Matteo had quite a lot of thoughts and raised a few issues, so it'd be good to talk about it when he's around.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. So yeah, I think, okay. So if nobody objects to that, let's leave you on the agenda till next time. Okay. The next one is the block list import export 659. So I'm just opening that up. This is around, there's a discussion on how we extend the moderation coverage from not just the Node.js org to also the PKGS org, which we brought in a while back, but we're just closing out on the governance, and that spurred some discussions in places that we should have done before but didn't, so we're doing them now. In terms of Rich, I think you added to the agenda, so I'm not sure if what questions you were hoping we were going to answer on that.
I'm sorry, I was completely ignoring what was going on and trying to test the JSON file thing. What issue?
This is the block list import export issue.
Oh, yeah. So no, this is I'm pretty sure I just put this on for awareness that the intention to sync the if we block a user in package.js, they will also be blocked in node.js and things like that. That was something I didn't want to fly under the radar. So that was mostly what that was about. It's for awareness, and also because not a lot of I'm going to say this now, but this might not have been my intention at the time. But it doesn't look like a lot of TSC members are engaged in that one. It looks like only I have said anything or left a reaction of any kind. Oh, Richard Lau left a reaction too. Just something to be aware of, and also it's another action we need to install. So that's all. No decision to be made or anything. Just wanted people to know about this.
People to be aware, and basically, if you have any concerns, please raise an issue. Otherwise, also would be good to have some positive feedback, but otherwise, nothing specific to decide.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
This
is one of those, so a lot of times the moderation team will discuss things and decide to do something, and the main hesitation is we want to make sure the we're not stepping on TSC toes. This is one of those examples.
Okay, great. So I think that takes us to the end of the issues. I'd suggest we skip the strategic initiatives today because we do want to reserve a bit of time for a private session. So unless anybody has concerns about that, let's close out our public session.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, thanks. So I will stop the live stream. Thanks for everybody who's been watching.